You're good.
All right, we'll call to order the regular meeting for the Oneonta City School District Board of Education for April 29th, 2020. Can we have the roll call, please?
Mr. Beckerink?
Here.
Mrs. Burnsworth?
Here.
Mr. Butterman?
Here.
Mr. Gaisford?
Here.
Mr. Grau?
Here.
Mrs. Kurkowski?
Here.
Mr. Reynolds?
I'm here.
Thank you.
Resolved to accept the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Before we move on, I just want to tell the participants who are watching, we have two opportunities to address the board. There is a chat or a Q&A, excuse me, down at the bottom of the screen in the middle. If you don't see it, you can hover your mouse over it. It's not actually Q&A, it's just statements. So if you'd like to make a statement to the board, you can type it in there, and at the appropriate time, I'll read that to the board. And we can go from there. And as I said, there'll be two, one in the beginning and one later on at the end. All right, resolved to accept the minutes of the April 15th, 2020 Board of Education meeting as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, this brings us to our first opportunity to address the board, and I don't see anything at this point. And as I said, there'll be another opportunity later. Resolved that the reading of the Teaching and Administrative Personnel Memorandum 2020-07 be waived, and that the action items dated April 29th, 2020 be approved as recommended by the Superintendent of Schools.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Grau, if I could just mention that upon approval of the personnel memorandum there, you'll notice that Fred Shumway and Faye Munson and Pat Winnie have submitted their retirements. They are all LTAs, and collectively, I would just like to say, that they have all contributed so much over the years to our district and have done a wonderful job. I had the privilege of having Faye Munson in my classroom for several years when I was teaching in the middle school, and I know that they've all deserved a wonderful, happy, and healthy retirement. So just want to wish them well always.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, so we're going to move to the superintendent's report, and we've been given guidance and we've been given some leeway by the state too because of the delay in the election period, and we still don't know when that's going to be, but we've also been given guidance to delay our actual approval of the budget. And while we certainly know where the number is going to fall for the most part of what our expenses are, we have no idea what our revenue is going to be. So we're going to take a little more time so that we can be thoughtful in what we do. But I think Tom has some information that he wants to talk about as far as the budget goes.
Yeah, I do. Thank you. And I certainly appreciate the additional time. It's really been expressed as, the revenue portion of this budget cycle is more like a moving target right now. So we know that there is going to be some decisions made by the governor relatively soon. We will experience one of those first look back periods tomorrow. So, I certainly appreciate the time. You are right, Mr. Grau, that the number probably won't change. We still are at a deficit that is just north of $700,000. And of course, that is problematic, but we are all working. This is a tremendous collaborative effort to to try and bridge that deficit while maintaining programming for our students and maintaining our staff. So in just a minute, you'll notice the memorandum of agreement between the district and the OTA relative to an incentive for our LTAs. And we have received 3 of those retirements. So we're really trying to work through this deficit, essentially through attrition and some areas where we can find some efficiencies and savings through equipment and things along those lines. But there's still a tremendous deal of work that needs to be done. And again, I certainly appreciate the time relative to that. And it is difficult, especially in this budget environment when 70% or a little bit more of our budget is tied up in salary and benefits. So, you know, we are going to do what we can to bridge that gap without, you know, risking programming and some of our wonderful faculty and staff members. So that's where we are with that right now. I don't know if you have any questions that Lisa and I can answer at this time.
I just had a quick question, Tom. You said that, you know, we're going to try to, you know, do this budget through attrition. Are you suggesting that those 3 LTAs that are retiring, we're not going to rehire those spots? And if that's the case, do we have enough staff? Are we equipped enough to give the coverage that we need for the students?
Well, you know, it will depend, you know, pretty much on, you know, when we completely evaluate, Darren, who has left. No, there are certainly positions that we will have to refill. And, you know, especially when it comes to LTAs, a lot of that is governed by student IEPs. And, you know, those legal requirements that we are obligated and mandated to maintain. So, you know, we're really evaluating everything. You know, there have been a couple of retirements at the elementary level that we're evaluating class size. And, you know, of course, that is ripe with other challenges once you don't fill those positions. So we're really just trying to get a complete picture of, you know, everything that we have at our disposal before we choose not to fill certain positions. There are a couple where we can absorb. You know, there have been 2 retirements in the high school in math and English that we can absorb those and not fill those. And there may be more as we kind of sort through this, but there will definitely be positions that we will have to fill again. And, you know, we will experience some savings between the salary disparities. But, you know, it's going to take just a little time to really sort through all of that stuff and come up with a number that gets us to 712,000.
You know, if I may, I mean, we were in the same place in 08. You know, we unfortunately got to the point where we looked at things that we absolutely had to do and had to eliminate a lot of things that we wanted to do. You know, hopefully, you know, maybe we'll see some federal relief here. I don't know. I don't think we can count on that, but we're definitely at a position where, you know, where we are doing things that we know probably aren't the best for our kids, but we just are forced into that. Our hand is forced.
Yeah, and you're right. You know, back in 2008, you know, there were certain things that could, you know, and were removed from the budget. And many of those things were never put back in. So when you look at experiencing this in 2020, some of those things that you could have gone to and said, you know what, we could probably do without this, they're not there anymore. You know, we have a pretty streamlined budget to begin with. And then to throw, you know, these economic challenges on top of that, it's difficult for sure. But, you know, we're going to continue to do our best to again, just like you had said, Mr. Grau, do what we can to minimize anything that ends up, diminishing the programs that we offer. And of course, those programs are offered through human beings. So we're gonna really try and sort through this so we can try and maintain as much as we can and still balance our budget as quickly as we can based on the information that gets presented to us from the state. And I'm with you. I absolutely hope that there is some sort of federal intervention, but we're planning as if there's not going to be, in the hopes that there will be. And we're not alone. There are school districts, there's 700 plus school districts in the state of New York, and almost all of them are feeling the pinch that we are experiencing, and the fear is that thousands and thousands of educators around this state are going to lose their job, and we're going to work hard to try and make ours one that limits that to the best of our ability.
Yep. And thank you to you and Lisa for everything. I know this is not an easy task, and especially when you start thinking about people, as far, and not positions, but actually the people in those positions.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'll say it again. Even though we're virtually presenting, but we work with great people. You included, you as well, all of you, but our admin team and our all of our faculty and staff. Everyone understands the reality of the situation, and everyone's working hard and being supportive, and truly understands the gravity of the situation that we're in. So thank you for that. All right, changing gears to the capital project, but it is moving full steam ahead. We have moved all of the equipment out of the weight room in the high school, which will ultimately be a new concession stand. And that will be right next to some storage for the physical education and athletics program, which will reside right next to a designated space for occupational and physical therapy, which will be great for our students to have a little bit of privacy when they are receiving those services. And that room will live right next to a really nice fitness center. So, I think we're all waiting for Friday's press release from the governor. But if in fact he indicates that this closure is going to be extended, we are going to move ahead and get our Masons into the current PE locker rooms so they can get started on those. But on the other side of the gym, the soon-to-be new locker rooms for physical education and the PE teachers' offices are coming along really, really well. All of the plumbing is in, all the walls have been constructed. They've started to put supports in for the ceilings and all of those things. So that is moving along nicely. I took a virtual tour today, which was pretty neat. But that is moving right along. As far as where the concession stand is, the old weight room, tomorrow morning, they're going to be saw cutting in there and creating the trenches for the plumbing and all of that kind of stuff. So it's progressing. There's lots of little things that are being checked off the list. So it's, there was some of that white glazed brick that we have in the high school that's beautiful, that has been displaced due to some doors being shifted and moved, and all of that is being done this week as well. So they're going to be all patched in. And again, bathroom work in our elementaries are continuing, so it's moving along. We have the opportunity to have an additional contracting crew with us, so we're going to see how quickly we can open some additional spaces, because we certainly want to take advantage of that personnel. So we could have a few areas going at the same time. You could have the folks working on one side while, some of the heavy demolition and refabrication can be taking place on the other side of the gym. So any opportunity that we can, we're going to try and take advantage of some additional staffing up there to work through that. So if there are no questions about that, I'll move on to the MOA. But resolution there for the memorandum of agreement between the Oneonta City School District and the OTA is to capture a retirement incentive for our licensed teaching assistants. And again, this is something that we had discussed at our last meeting, and just give folks an opportunity to take advantage of that situation and free up some spaces, and then we can evaluate who needs to, what positions need to be filled, and what ones we can put in the attrition column to help us towards bridging that deficit. So if there are no other questions, that's all I have for now.
All right, well, let me get the resolution out there and we can have any discussion if we want to. Resolved, upon the recommendation of the superintendent to approve a memorandum of agreement between the Oneonta City School District and the Oneonta Teachers Association, wherein the OCSD is offering a first come, first served retirement award in the amount of $6,500 for those unit members who meet the criteria contained in the document. The total aggregate cost for all retirement awards shall not exceed $26,000. Have a motion?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? I do want to circle back to the budget because I want to officially table that. Resolve to table the vote on the 2020-2021 budget until the May 13th, 2020 Oneonta City School District Board of Education meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion there? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, thank you. So we'll move down to the financial memorandum. Resolve that the reading of financial memorandum 2020-7 dated April 29th, 2020 be waived, and that the action items be approved as recommended by the superintendent of schools.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself.
There you go.
Yeah, I know. There's not a lot on there. The standard reports and the natural gas bid that we participate in every year with BOCES. And the rest of it, it looks long, but it's all change orders that have already been executed and taken care of. They're all signed and ready to go. So and all the details are in the backup. So.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? That brings us to our second opportunity to address the board. We have 3 comments. Ann Woolstenholme, Oneonta High School principal. Tonight you accepted the retirement of Fred Shumway. Fred has been our go-to person at the OHS, always willing to help out in a pinch. He was on duty before the sun rose each morning to open the doors to those students who arrived in the early hours. I will miss his upbeat greeting and smile and wish him all the best for a well-deserved retirement. Kathy Lynch offers congratulations to Pat, Faye, and Fred on their retirements. They're great people and great colleagues. And Kathy Lynch also wants to thank the administrators, Lisa Weeks, and the board members for hard work on the very tough budget issues. So thank you to you for those comments. That brings us down to committee reports. And as I'm looking at you, I'll go left to right. So Darren, you're first.
I have no new committee reports. I would just like to congratulate Pat, Fred, and Faye on their retirements. It's always sad to see, you know, it's kind of bittersweet, I guess. It's retirement, so it's a change for them. So we wish them the best in their retirement, but we lose, you know, a great deal of years of experience in faculty. So congratulations to them on their retirement. And again, I would just like to thank Tom and Lisa for their hard work on the budget. Tom mentioned earlier a metaphor of kind of like hitting a moving target with the budget, so I really appreciate that. I can't imagine a better metaphor for that, but thank you two for working on the budget, and hopefully we get some good news sometime soon in the future. And that's all I have.
All right, Sean.
Well, Darren, you stole my thunder. So, yes, the budget, Tom, I'm sure it's not easy. And you seem like you get through it every single time. And you always do it with a smile on your face. And it's a pleasure to see that. And I know it's not an easy task. For the 3 retirees,
All right.
trust me, you will. In budget stuff, not budget, but committee stuff, I have nothing as of tonight.
Okay. You don't know it, but you cut out there. But thanks.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Amy.
I'll follow Sean and Darren's sentiments in congratulating our newest retirees. Best of luck and good health to you in your retirement. And yes, as Tom said, there's many moving parts to this budget process, and with many moving parts, I know there's many people involved in who you're collaborating with every day, both inside and outside of the school building. And so I want to express my appreciation to anyone and everyone who's working on solving this with us. Well, that's all I have right now.
All right, Sue.
Let me unmute. Again, just reiterate everything that everyone else has said, but I will say congratulations to all the retirees, but I do have a member of the golf team here who is very sad to see Mr. Shumway go. And in fact, the whole team is very sad to see him go. They really enjoyed having him as their coach last year. And that's all I have.
All right, Jamie.
Was that Amy or Jamie?
You.
Oh, gotcha.
Amy went.
There's no rhyme or reason on my screen here. I don't know. It's like Hollywood Squares, and I don't know what it is. But anyway, yes, congratulations to the retirees. That's it's one of those major things that life events that happen, and a lot of water under the bridge, and a lot of memories, and congratulate them on the next chapter. And I was gonna ask during Tom's report there, but I'll bring it up now. I mean, we haven't had a finance meeting since our last meeting, but has there been any talk of mandate relief, Tom? I mean, I think it's a foregone conclusion we're going to have some cuts, but I remember 11 years ago when they did the cuts, they were going to provide the mandate relief, and that part never showed up. So here we are, and I think we're all waiting for just how much, not if. And certainly it would behoove us to advocate for things like that now, that if they're not going to provide the money to do them, then certainly we should have the flexibility to do the job the best way we could subjectively in our district, and not necessarily under the blanket requirements of Albany.
I agree, Jamie. I spend many hours during the evening writing our legislators. And maybe this is one of those occasions when just the opposite will happen, as opposed to these things were discussed and they never came to fruition. They're not even being discussed, so who knows? Maybe this time, something will come along like that, but there has been no such discussion taking place. Well, I shouldn't say discussion. we've heard nothing from the state relative to that at all.
Typically, when we say mandate relief, they say, well, give us a list, we'll work on it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
The same one we gave you 12 years ago.
We did, yeah. All right. Well, I think we will find out. Like you said, some of the projections are already in at the state level, and while they don't know what's happening at the federal level, I think they will start the process from what I'm hearing, but maybe not.
I agree, and I'm going to remain optimistic until the bitter end. I know. We've heard initially from the governor about a 50% decrease in state aid. And then, just the very next day, it was at 20%, which is very concerning to us because that lives in the area of $2.1 million. So I'm just going to remain optimistic that, the federal government is going to provide some sort of, financial intervention for the states, especially a state like ours that has been so devastated by this illness. It's hard for me to fathom that the federal government would not come in and intervene under these circumstances in particular. So, until we're told no, I'm gonna remain optimistic because that's, I think, all we can do at this point.
Well, I guess the last thing I would just add, if there's any solace in numbers, you have a lot of company trying to balance the books right now. Yeah. Essentially, our entire tax base within the school district has been negatively impacted here by, basically significant shutdowns on many of our businesses, not-for-profits, our entire economy. And everybody is feeling the pain in some, regard. So it is such a, event of magnitude here that I can't believe we won't have some help, but there's no easy answers here, and we'll just have to take it as they come. There's no sense of worrying about something that we don't know about yet, but I applaud you for touching base with the legislators, and I think that's what we can do right now is advocate for solutions, whether they be on either side of the ledger. We need to somehow balance the equation here and educate our kids.
Exactly.
So anyway, that's all I got for tonight.
All right, thank you. Dan.
All right, well, thanks for letting me go last. I have to start by saying my appreciation and thanks for the retirees, Pat, Faye, and Fred. Congratulations. It's a tough time to be saying goodbye, but don't think it means any less. I have to say goodbye this way. A couple notes, no committee reports, but I guess my 2 cents on this budget, what's going to happen with it. Like when the governor said that he may cut funding by 50%, and it seems like every year when we go through this budgeting process, the governor puts out something that just is terrible. And then therefore everything thereafter is good news. But I don't see any good news. Anyway, he puts it, he may go 50% to 20%, and we start doing the math as far as where that shortfall is. But I think it's a very troubling area where we're going to be, not just when reopening happens, hopefully after the pause in whatever phase that they do, but even into the next year. I think it's going to be a continuing problem, sort of like what happened in 08 and 09. And I'm glad to hear that you're reaching out to legislators as far like Jamie said, as far as letting them know what our needs are, what we can do with and what we can do without. But it does feel like in this case that we're a bit powerless and that we just have to wait. And like you said before, waiting for Friday for the press release to see what the guidance is. And then it's like you're going to start the budget process all over. And then after the next look back, we'll probably pass the budget and then have to do it all over again. So I know that the numbers are put out there by the governor, and I hope that there is some federal relief at some point. But I think that is something that's not going to help us in the short term as far as making this budget work, like Jamie said. Still trying to help our kids, but at the same time, you got to get both sides of the street to meet. And I'm thankful that you have your mind on it every day and continuing the construction projects and checking in with our teachers. I really appreciate what you said last time at the last meeting, and I'm sure it's going well. That you've been calling the faculty and staff just to check in on them. I think you said almost 40 a day at that point. Because it is weird. It's like our lives are living through Zoom right now. And it's nice to have that call to see that, just to know that we're all still here and getting through it together. So that's all I got. That was my short bit.
So obviously I'll add my congratulations to the newer retirees. And I know that last week SUNY received notice from the governor's office not to expect the $218 million payment that they were going to get in April. So I don't know what that means for the rest of us and what it's going to mean going forward, but they were told that last week already. So I'm sure we're going to see something coming up here by the end of the week, at least after this first look back. You know, it's as I said before, it's difficult times, and Tom and I were talking, and he was, you know, laying things out, and it's kind of like looking through the couch cushions for change to, you know, to pay the mortgage. We're in a difficult spot, and I agree. I hope maybe we can lean on the federal legislators also, and not just our state legislators, to get some relief from them. All right. With that, I will entertain a motion to move to executive session for the purposes of special education and personnel.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. And board members, you should have received an email from Bonnie with a link for the